There's a moment, a few days before payday, when your account hits a number that makes your stomach drop. Not because you're in trouble, you've been here before, and you always survive it. It drops because some part of you recognizes the number. It feels like home. And here's the part almost nobody will say out loud. When the money lands and the balance climbs back up, that same part of you gets uneasy, restless. You start finding reasons. This isn't about men who don't earn enough. That's a different video and a harder problem. This is about the man who earns enough, has done for years, and still somehow ends every month at the same low number. If that's you, you are not bad with money. You are doing something much more specific than that. Picture a man on a decent wage, not wealthy but comfortable. Every raise he has ever had has been real, and none of it has stuck. Look at his account across a year, and you'd see a pattern he has never noticed. The balance climbs, and then something happens. The car needs work, a course he'll start and not finish, a weekend away he didn't especially want. Every time it comes back down to roughly the same figure. Not zero, a specific number, give or take, that he returns to the way a thermostat returns a room to temperature. That's the reset number. Almost every man who cannot hold money has one, and almost none of them could tell you what theirs is. And notice what it is not. It isn't recklessness. Every one of those purchases had a reason, and most of them were sensible. Something is steering, and it is steering with excellent excuses. So what's doing the steering? There's a well-established idea in psychology called self-verification. The short version: people don't just want to feel good about themselves, they want to be right about themselves. We seek out situations, people, and outcomes that confirm what we already believe we are. And this holds even when the belief is a bad one. Someone who is certain they're unlovable will find the evidence. Someone certain they're a fraud will read every promotion as a mistake waiting to be caught. It isn't self-hatred, it's coherence. Being wrong about who you are is disorienting in a way the mind works hard to avoid. Now apply that to money. If you learned young that people like you don't keep money, not as a lecture, just as the weather in the house you grew up in, then a healthy balance isn't only unfamiliar, it's a contradiction. It's evidence against the person you understand yourself to be. That's the familiar self, and the mind is extremely good at resolving contradictions. Here's the part that stings, and it's the reason awareness alone never fixes this. Being the broke one pays you something. It might be a role. The scrappy one, the grafter, the man who doesn't care about money. There's dignity in that, and there's a kind of armor too. Nobody can accuse you of selling out, or getting arrogant, or thinking you're better than where you came from. It might be belonging. If everyone you grew up with is still counting, then pulling ahead isn't only success, it's separation. Some men can feel that coming and quietly decide against it before they ever put it into words. And it might be the low expectations. If you're the man who never has money, then nobody asks you for any. Nobody expects you to carry them. That's the identity dividend. It's a real payment, and you have been collecting it for years. That's why the spreadsheet never worked. Nobody gives up something that's paying them just because a budgeting app suggests it. And there's a fourth thing, which is the one that turns a pattern into a trap. In 2013, researchers published a study in Science looking at what being short of money does to thinking itself. They found that financial scarcity measurably consumes mental capacity. Not because poorer people are less capable. The same individuals perform differently depending on whether money worries were front of mind. Being short takes up room in your head. Room you would otherwise be using to plan, to decide well, to think past this week. That's the bandwidth tax. And it's circular, which is what makes it vicious. Being broke makes you worse at the exact thinking required to stop being broke. So when you get to the end of another month and can't work out why you didn't act sooner, it isn't weakness. Part of your capacity was already spent on the arithmetic of getting through. Put those four together and you can see why the usual advice bounces off. Budgeting assumes the problem is a decision. It isn't. You're not choosing badly. You're returning to a self that makes sense to you while paying a tax on your thinking in a pattern that has been rewarding you for years. No app touches any of that. And if you've been trying to force it, you'll know the loop. You go hard. It works for a while. It slips. You call yourself a failure and go harder. Round again. That loop is where most men actually get stuck. Not in the original story about money, in the exhaustion of fighting themselves while believing they're fighting circumstance. Quick thing before the part that actually helps. If you've recognized yourself anywhere in the last few minutes, tap the like button. Not for me. It's the only signal that puts this in front of other men who think they're just bad with money, and most of them have never been told there's a name for what they're doing. And put your reset number in the comments. Just the figure, not your salary, not the story behind it, the number your account keeps coming back to. You will find out very quickly how many other men are sitting at almost exactly the same one, and there is a strange kind of relief in seeing that. So what does work? Not insight. You can understand every word of this and change nothing, and plenty of men do. Awareness without a method just gives you a better vocabulary for feeling broken. What changes a self-view is evidence. Repeated, small, hard to argue with evidence that you are someone slightly different from who you assumed. And that has to happen at a size you can actually tolerate, which is the opposite of how most men try it. They go from nothing to an ambitious savings target in a month, feel the discomfort, and empty it. And now they've proved the old story right, again. Small enough to survive, repeated often enough to become ordinary. That's the whole method. It is not exciting and it does not photograph well, which is exactly why nobody sells it to you. Worth being honest about the experience, because it's strange. Holding money you're not used to holding does not feel good at first. It feels like something is unfinished, like a job you've forgotten to do. That feeling is not a signal that you're doing it wrong. It's what a contradiction feels like from the inside. And it passes, not because you win an argument with it, but because the balance sits there long enough to stop being news. The first time a number stays put for 3 months without you noticing, something has genuinely moved. And if you want to see the shape of this in yourself, there's a free 2-minute quiz linked in the description. It'll tell you which of the 5 mind types you are and what that pattern quietly costs you. 90 seconds of honest answers, and the result comes straight to your inbox. It's the quickest way to stop guessing at which version of this you're running. 3 things. 1. Find your reset number. Open 12 months of statements and look for the floor you keep coming back to. Write it down. Most men have never seen it, and it is oddly hard to keep returning to a number you've named. 2. Raise it by an amount that is almost boringly small. Not a savings goal, a new floor. An amount you have decided is not available, at a size that doesn't frighten you. If it feels heroic, it's too big, and you'll be back down within the month. 3. Collect the evidence. Once a week, note one thing you did that the old story says you don't do. Kept it, didn't check out, asked for the higher rate. You are not affirming anything, you're building a case file. Self-verification cuts both ways, and it will eventually confirm whichever man has more evidence behind him. The man in this video isn't broken, and he isn't lazy. He's consistent. Every month he behaves exactly like the person he understands himself to be. That's not a flaw in the machinery. That is the machinery working. Which means the question was never whether you can earn it. Most of you already have, more than once. The question is who you'd have to become to keep it, and whether you're willing to be wrong about yourself for long enough to find out. And if you found your reset number in this one, watch the video on screen now, because knowing the number is only half of it. The next one is about the system most men build to defend it, the budget that feels responsible, that you keep faithfully, and that quietly holds you exactly where you already were. It's this same pattern, wearing a spreadsheet.